Hey, have you ever wondered what heaven is going to be like? Have you ever thought, man, I wonder what it's going to be like to live with God, or what's going to look like, or um, who am I going to know? There's a lot of these specific questions. When we talk to pastors about what heaven is going to be like, a lot of times they'll give us the answer of, it's the place where God is. It's the place of peace. It's a place where we'll worship together. Very generic answers. But usually when we ask what's heaven going to be like, we're asking more specifically. So today we wanted to talk about that on the Small Town Pastor podcast. Just get some ideas, some possibilities of what heaven's going to be like. So without further ado, welcome to the Small Town Pastor podcast. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing heaven and exactly what we might think it is. To be honest, there's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of opportunity as to know what heaven is going to be like because there's only so much scripture that tells us about heaven. Now, what it does tell us gives some pretty clear indicators, some very clear borders of what we know will be and what things won't be. But there's a lot of free space to think about in between. The crux of where heaven is described is in Revelation chapter 21. It is in the vision of John where he's examining the full culmination of all things. And after all things that the world's been through, finally it's all resolved into this final kingdom with God. And he starts off chapter 21 by saying, I, John, saw a new heaven and a new earth. And the old ones were gone. And it says there was no more sea. And it says that God was living with his people on this new heaven and new earth. And then he says that as God is there with them, that he removes death and sorrow and crying and pain. And all these old things that used to be in the world are all gone. And then he describes the presence of morality, and he says that there is nothing immoral allowed, and that simply it's just a place of perfection. After that, he goes into this description where we're probably most familiar with some of the symbolism and the descriptions that are given of heaven in this passage. He's actually talking about the New Jerusalem, a city, more so than an entire place. And it says, I saw the New Jerusalem come down from heaven onto this new earth. And that's kind of key. We missed that part. This new city is going to be built out of these precious minerals, diamond and crystal and gold and all these other awesome things. And this is where we get the idea of heaven is paved with gold and that there's a crystal sea and that there's all this beauty that's in the architecture of heaven. What we miss is this is not actually heaven. This is a sliver of heaven. This is a tiny part of heaven. This is just one little area. In fact, he even gives dimensions of it. It's very small. It's not going to fit the billions of people over time that have accrued into the body of Christ, into the family of God, and that will be in heaven. So surely this is a city not meant to house everybody, but meant where people can come periodically to be a part of the worship of God. This is the holy city, Jerusalem, meant for his worship. So what is heaven going to be like? On a tangible basis, here's what I think it's going to look like. Based on what John tells us here, how it's a new heaven and a new earth, everything's getting recreated. Space, the world, all of it is new. And where we're going to live is in this new world. And this is heaven to us. This is where we'll actually live and be. And this world is not going to have any kind of imperfection in it. In fact, it's going to be perpetually prime existence. That's what it is. It's everything perpetually in its prime. Our bodies are going to be new, and they're going to be in their prime. There aren't going to be any children or aged. There will be mature bodies in their prime. There's not going to be any forest fires. There's just going to be perpetually green trees. There's going to be life everywhere. Because of this, I kind of think that there will probably be animals in creation in heaven as well, in the sense that it's a new world. And in this new world, there will be creation. There will be animals, as insinuated in the Old Testament, and they won't be non-violent. They will be non-carnivorous. And because of that, all the animals will live at peace with one another, and we will be at peace with all the animals. There will be no prey or predator situation. There will just be peace. And so the world is going to be where we live. It's going to be brand new. It's going to be perpetually in its prime. It's going to be the utmost of all creation. It's going to harken back to the original days of when the Garden of Eden was established and how there were animals, creation, and plant life, and all of these things present there, but there was no death, pain, sorrow, nothing. There was nothing. And so for us, we understand a sliver of that, because in its best, when we look at the earth, even in its best, there are imperfections. We look at the Grand Canyon and we see the awesome effects of erosion, but yet we still see erosion. When we see Mount Everest and we see it in its grandeur and its beauty, we do see it that way, but we also see it with its flaws and the avalanches. There's so many things. When we see the beauty of the horizon over the sea, we also see hurricanes. None of those kinds of things are going to be present in this new world where we'll live. This new world, not only will it be naturally perfect and beautiful, it'll be morally perfect and beautiful. So there's no competition against people. There's no war. There's no hostility. There's complete unity. Family life, what's that going to be like? Well, Jesus says in the Gospels that people are not given in marriage. So like when you're married in this life, the Pharisees asked, who's going to be this woman's husband if she's got 7 husbands? Which one of them is her legit husband in heaven? Jesus says, you guys are not smart, and the answer is none of them, because in heaven, life is brand new. You're not going to have any of your old things in this life. There is no marriage that exists here that will exist there. So everything is going to be totally brand new in heaven. And that means while we have a recognition of our earthly families and our friends and all that, we're going to have a brand new start to living. And it will be perfect, and again, it'll be forever. So life is going to be very different in the fact that we will have no enemies, we will have no inhibitions, we will have no privileges between each other, right? Like sometimes we treat certain people better because they're friends or family, and certain people we don't treat as much because we just don't like them. None of that will exist in heaven, because we won't have family or friends or people we don't like. We'll just have everyone. It'll be equal across the board. That's not to say we won't interact with each other like we do with family, friends. It's more to say that we'll all be family. And so it's hard to say exactly what parts of this life are not going to be and are going to be in heaven, but we know that any part of this life that is afflicted by sin and the curse, that will not be there. Anything that is not afflicted by sin and the curse has the potential to be there, but not necessarily exclusively automatically is. So again, marriage. Will there be marriage in heaven? One thing for sure, we know that any marriage that's on this earth will not continue in heaven. Is there more marriage in heaven? Maybe, maybe not. When it says that marriage is not given in heaven, it's kind of understood that it's talking about the marriages here. So there's a possibility, but there's absolutely no actual discussion on the matter biblically. So there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of speculation you could have about what could be in heaven. But I think the healthier way to understand it is to just say, okay, we know what's not going to be there, and that leaves the door open for what could be, right? If we just eliminate the things that we know aren't going to be there, then we know what things might be there, and that's pretty exciting. Not only is it going to be naturally and morally and socially perfect and all these things, one of the key things that Revelation stresses is that this is the place where God is. Heaven actually is a multi-defined term. It is a word that means the place in the sky. It is a word that talks about generically the outer space or the skies. There are passages all over the Old and New Testament that refer to heaven with that inferred meaning for instance, the heavens declare the glory of God. Or I can make my bed in heaven and you are there, or I can make my bed in Sheol and you are there. And it's not talking about any other thing other than I can make it out there or I can make it down there. That's kind of the premise of it. Heaven can mean out there. It can mean wherever God is. And it can also mean a place of peace or paradise. And all of those things are going to be fully realized in the definition of what heaven will be. So what it's going to look like, it's going to look very green and beautiful. And it's going to look like the world in its absolute prime. It's going to look and smell like nature has not been ever afflicted, and like it will never be afflicted. So if you can imagine yourself in the most beautiful rainforest, in the most beautiful, luscious area of the world, without any danger of animals or predators, if you can imagine yourself interacting freely with the world without any kind of consequence and without the world having consequence from you, that's kind of the natural environment we'll be in. As far as a social environment, what it's going to be like with people, it's going to be a brand new life. And that means a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that we may or may not have that we do have here. Probably a lot of things that we don't have here at all that'll be new to us in heaven. One major aspect of life is our worship life. I don't think we're going to have churches we go to and pastors over us as we do in this life. Rather, we're going to have a city, the city of God, one place on this earth that we can freely travel to and fro. And this new city, this new Jerusalem, the home that God interacts with his people, it is beautiful, it is perfect, again, it's paradise, and it is where we will be with God, and God will be with us. In a very literal sense, not just, like I have Jesus in my heart, or God is with us in this place, or the Spirit is with us now. It's tangible, it's legit. We'll be able to see God. We'll be able to be there. We'll be able to talk and speak to God in a very tangible way, like Moses on the mountain and like Abraham as he walked. We will actually have a relationship with God that is non-distant, and then we can go to his house, his literal house, any day of the week, any time of day. Also want to reference this. John mentions in his gospel that Jesus said he was going to a place where he would prepare mansions. And there is a misconception. I think it's often with children, too, that we give this misconception. That heaven's this place in the clouds. It's out there somewhere, and God is there. And he's got these big houses that he's making. And every one of us is going to live there, and we're just going to enjoy our time. And then that'll be it. And that's heaven. No, heaven's going to be here. It's going to be tangibly right here, right now. And one of the things that we see is that we don't have to work for our reward. God gives it to us. When it says that he builds us mansions, God creates the dwelling places for us, I think in part based on the life we live here, the reward we get there. And God builds us these mansions, these massive dwelling places on this new earth that has consequentially no sea, and that could mean one of two things. We'll talk about that in a second. But these mansions are going to be places that we can live on this world. And God might be preparing them there, but just like New Jerusalem, he will prepare it there. He will bring it down to this earth, and this is where we will live forever. Not this one, the new one. So again, it gets confusing. Heaven is less of a place out there. It's going to be a place in here, except here is going to be totally brand new. Finally, I want to talk about the no more sea part. In John, in his vision, he says, I, John, saw New Jerusalem, or new earth, new heaven, and the holy city, New Jerusalem, came down out of heaven. He says, on this new earth, there was no more sea. There is a spiritual and a physical possibility to that. So first of all, let's go with the physical one. It could mean that there's no more legitimate sea, like that there's no more oceanic features, that it's one Pangea continent. It's one massive land tract, this new world. And it has no requirement for water because we won't need water to survive. That being said, we do know that there's freshwater sources, there's rivers, there's lakes that are described in Scripture in heaven. So we know that there's water sources. It doesn't mean there's a total absence of water. I kind of think that physically, the best way to understand this is that it's saying it'll be a place where it's completely land. It's a landlocked place where the world that we currently live in is primarily oceanic water. So I think that will be the big difference, that instead of all these continents set adrift, we'll have one massive land tract that we will be a part of that will dominate the surface of this new world. But there is a spiritual meaning to that too. In Revelation, the book of Revelation, the sea is used as a metaphor for the peoples of the world. And it says that the beast rises out of the sea. The dragon rises out of the sea. It's not actually saying that a dragon came up out of water. It's actually saying that the dragon came from amongst the peoples of this world. And it's really with this intonation of evil, with this intonation or this implication of badness. So it could mean spiritually that there is no more evil sea that the beast could rise up out of, that there is no more place or people or presence or opportunity or anything like that that evil can come out of. And so when it says that there's no more sea, that it could just mean an implication of it's going to be a perfect place and there will be no opportunity for imperfection. I think that's a given. I kind of lean more toward the physical aspect of it, although I think that the spiritual one is a part of it as well. So a lot of things that could mean, a lot of things that could be there. And it's hard to say exactly what will. But if I were to give you one conclusive picture of what heaven's going to be like, it's this. Green, beautiful, aromatic. It's going to be, again, perfect in nature. It's going to be perfect in society. Everyone will interact with each other as if we are family, and we are going to treat each other perfectly. We will interact with God on a regular, constant basis. And our interaction with God is not going to be distant. It will be near. As far as the kind of life we'll live, I don't know exactly what it'll look like, but it could include constant feasting. It could include just spending close time and enjoying simple pleasures of life together. It could include the creation of families. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And I kind of doubt it, to be honest. But there's a lot that could happen as far as what life might be like. I know that the focus is going to be your life as an individual will exist, but it's going to be a communal focus. Heaven is a community. And then at the center of that community and what that community is all about is God. And our focus is going to be completely on Him. So again, I know that I meant to get specific and I got generic at the end. It's hard. It's hard to know what heaven's going to be like because there's only so much in Scripture. But just to give you a close picture of it, I would say heaven's going to be just a perfect world, not a place in the sky, not some cloudy castle with gold roads. It's going to be a massive supercontinent of perfect life forever. And on this supercontinent, there will be amazing, beautiful cities built out of diamond and gold. And we will have interaction with each other. We will have dwelling places of our own. We'll have nature to interact with. We'll have each other to interact with. And at the center of it all, we have God. Not distant, direct, right there amongst us. Someone we can talk to constantly and we will hear His literal voice. Someone who we can look to and we will see His actual face. And I think that that's going to be the best part of heaven. But it's definitely going to be a beautiful experience. We're not going to have anything negative. There'll be no death, no crying. We're going to have a reason to cry. Some people will be like, you mean we won't even have tears of joy? No, because we'll just have joy. It doesn't mean we won't be crying tears of joy because we're not happy. It means we won't have the sad part of like where we're conflicted and we're crying even though we're happy. Our bodies, like we don't know we don't understand what it's going to be like because we only have lived with this finite experience. This is going to be an infinite experience, and it's going to be amazing. And I hope that you are a part of it. I hope that you are seeking heaven. I hope that you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that you're looking forward to this day. If not, you need to contact me. I would love to tell you about what heaven is all about, how to get there. I would love to be a part of that part of your life. Also, if you have questions about heaven that I didn't answer here, because I know I'm still only getting so much description, would you please comment below and let me know what questions you have about heaven. I'll do my absolute best to answer them or to help you. Or if you want to, share in the comment section your favorite thing that heaven's going to include. Share with me what you are looking forward to most about heaven. It's going to be fun. Let's have that conversation in the comments. Also subscribe, as there are more videos coming out, and you don't want to miss any of those. And I would love to know any more topics that you have interest in, and we'll make sure to provide those for you as well. Thank you for being a part of this conversation with me. And again, please subscribe, comment, let me know if there's any thoughts you have. Would love to hear those things. And until next time, I'll see you later.